grateful for, guys. We are here together enjoying our time, expanding our horizons. So, guys, we're going to be continuing chapter 19 today. We also are going to be covering the stock game a little bit more in depth. By the end of class today, I'm going to have every group email me their names, the name of their group, and all their team members. We're going to be breaking into groups at a point in class today to do all this stuff. And get this, I'm going to be covering the game and even giving each group a copy of an A-grade paper. I give you a hard copy. If you lose that hard copy, well, I give you another one. That's correct. So guard it with your lives. Before we get in today, though, guys, any feedback on our first test? Was it what you were expecting? Did you get any curveballs? What's your thoughts? Your opinion could affect future tests. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I did play with that stuff a little bit. Did I trip some folks up a little? So, sorry about that, guys. But that's exactly why you read the question. Other feedback. Other feedback. Well, I'm here to say that a lot of people got A's. And a lot of people moved in between grades because of their bonus points. Some of you guys had up to like 4 bonus points on this. And for some people, it was the difference between an A- and an A. Some people, it was the difference between a B and an A-. So the bonus points all really panned out. Now, guys, I'm going to be filing midterm grades today, this afternoon. I'm going to ask you to review your test score. If you feel that I omitted bonus points that should have been on there, contact me before 2 o'clock today. Spend some time to do it. Not during class today. After class, if you give me emails during class time, I'm not going to be happy. So please, take some time to review that before 2 o'clock today. Now, guys, in terms of bonus points, too, for anyone who wants to earn some bonus points on a future test, I have a standing rule in this class. You can earn 2 bonus points by doing a 5 to 10 minute presentation at the beginning of class. If you're willing to go in the hot seat and pretend to be me for the first 10 minutes of class, you can earn 2 points. If it's a really killer presentation, and we let the conversation continue, some people have gotten up to 4 bonus points just for leading a conversation. So if you want some points, hit me up. I'll gladly schedule you so long as we have time. All right, guys, before we get in today, I'm going to be asking you to remember the following things. On Monday, we're going to be convening again as groups, and you're going to be picking 3 to 4 stocks to play on the markets. Don't fear this because we're going to be covering it today. Your next assignment in this class is not due till the 23rd. It is the rate of return exercise. Don't start it yet. We're going to cover it in class. It's something that should take you 5 minutes to do. Mentorship Day is on the 25th of October. Is there anybody who knows they will not be on campus on the 25th? See me after class. We'll come up with an alternative assignment. Guys, what I'm asking you to do for that day, we cancel all classes of the School of Business. That means, instead of attending this class, I'm asking you to sign up for a mentorship session. You're going to get credit as though you did an assignment simply by showing up and improving your chances for getting a job. So I'm going to be asking you to sign up, and I will go over that assignment. But here's the way that you submit that assignment. When you go to the session you sign up for, you're going to take a picture and you're going to submit it as an attachment in Canvas to prove to me you actually went. That's the way you get 10 points. You don't have to write anything up. You don't have to give me a paper. All you got to do is prove to me that you went there. I'll cover it in more detail. I sent an email out to the entire class last week. It's from John Miko. This I will give you permission to do it while we're in class, is to look for that email from John Miko. Who here has already signed up for a mentorship session? Awesome. If you have not yet, please do so. It's going to be a great day. But we're going to start off today, guys, because we're talking about the securities market. We're going to be talking about what's going on with GM and investors. How long have they been walking out of the job? It's been a month. These guys have been walking the picket line for a month now. So we're talking about people who are not showing up. They're not making cars. They're not making new parts. They're not getting new Corvettes for any of the car folks who are out there. Guys, how could this hurt GM's bottom line? How is this hurting GM's bottom line if they're not making cars? That's exactly right. So we're talking about more people who are not going to be able to do the cars they go for. Is General Motors a publicly traded stock? Yes, it is. What does that mean, guys? If General Motors is a publicly traded stock, what does that mean? Yes? Exactly. Guys, Kelly, why would General Motors, if you're considering investing in General Motors, why would you hesitate? Exactly right. Sooner or later, that stock price is going to tank big time. The flip side is, if you're an optimist, you feel, hey, General Motors is going to come back. Could this be a good opportunity for you? The old adage is buy low and sell high. The bigger concern we're talking about in that particular video is the bond market. Although General Motors is a publicly traded company, they occasionally borrow money as well. You can lend money to companies just like you can buy stock from them. So what they're saying basically is that this stock continues to go down, their bond ratings could go down as well. Let me give you an example. Let's say Sadie lent me $50. Sadie, I didn't pay you back for 6 months, and I come back to you in another 8 months and ask you for another $50. You're going to give me another 50? I wouldn't give you another 50 either, because I'm a bad risk. I've been downgraded as a borrower, and that's exactly what could happen with GM. If you're saying this company has very little chance at paying off their debt, we're not going to keep lending them money. So keep your eye on this, guys. If you are an optimist and you feel like the strike is going to pan out in the long run, it might be a good time to invest in some shares of GM. All right, guys, we're going to start off by returning to our discussion about bonds. Please write something down when I'm talking to you on this stuff, because it could show up on a test. If you're not taking notes, I'm going to come and sit next to you the entire class, and it's going to be awkward for all of us. Guys, in terms of the language of bonds, what it means is that you're lending a company money. Now, what's the deal with bonds? If you are somebody who lends somebody money, what are you entitled to? You got it. And I interrupted you, I'm sorry. Interest is what you're entitled to, and it's legally required. So anytime you hold a bond till the time it's mature, you're paying off the whole amount. Interest is required. It's how we put money in. We talked a little bit about the various types of bonds that are available to us. The U.S. government even sells bonds, from U.S. savings bonds the whole way down to Yankee bonds, which means other countries actually will issue bonds in U.S. currency because of the relative stability of our currency. Well, actually, let me ask you, we covered this at the end of class yesterday, or Wednesday or Monday, whenever we last spoke. Guys, will somebody on this side of the room tell me one advantage for a company of issuing a bond as opposed to issuing stock? What's one advantage? Who ultimately, if you issue a bond, Devin, if you issue a bond, who owns your company? Is it the shareholders or is it the company? It is the company. That's exactly right. That's the advantage. If you issue a bond, you still have control. This side of the room over here, if we issue a stock, who ultimately has control of the company? Shareholder. You got it. And they can vote through a board. So if you are issuing a bond, you still have control over your company. You can deduct the interest. You don't have to pay taxes like you do on income from stocks. Once you pay it off, you own it free and clear. It's all good. If you pay off your bond, you have complete control of your company back. And again, you can repay it before the due date if you've got a provision in your account to do so. We call that a callable bond. We call that a callable bond. If I'm saying it repeatedly, you should write it down. We call that a callable bond. Here are some of the disadvantages of issuing bonds. Who here, by show of hands, likes being in debt? Not one hand went up, because you're smart. How many of you are finance people, by the way? Yeah. Anybody majoring in finance? Well, if you're thinking about it, or you are, debt can be a real killer. Nobody likes having debt, and it makes your company look bad. For example, let's say, how many of you went to the Michelle Singletary speech? By show of hands. Do you remember what she said about asking for a credit check before she would marry somebody? Do you remember she made that statement? I thought it was hysterical. Guys, why is that a good idea to know your partner's financial status before you get married? What does it say about them? Yes?
It tells you about like their responsibility with their money, and basically when you marry them, their problems become your problems.
Brother, you're telling the truth. By the way, here's a little bit of advice for you guys on relationships. Something that annoys you this much when you're dating someone will annoy you this much once you marry them. So things like debt become big deals. And it's a big deal too because we get judged by our debt. if we are a company that's carrying a lot of debt just to make payroll, people eventually are saying, do I want to invest in that company or not? Who here can tell me a big company that's not making any money right now? In terms of a big company, let me rephrase it, a big company that's making money that still is not making a profit. Yes? Tesla is a great one. Great example. Who else? Spotify, great one. One more. I'm thinking transportation. Somebody who would drive you around. Uber and Lyft, neither one of those companies are making money yet. They're making revenue, but they are not making profit. Sooner or later, they lose their credibility. And again, one of the disadvantages of taking out a bond is you have to pay it back. That ultimately is a problem. Now, in terms of bond ratings, guys, we start talking about different bond ratings. This means somebody is worth it. If you're getting, by the way, have you not heard of Moody's, Standard & Poor's, or Fitch? Those are third parties. What these companies do essentially is evaluate debt. They evaluate is somebody a credible person to lend money to or not. It's kind of like they do the work for us that we're trying to determine if somebody is worth lending money to. If you get a AAA bond rating, that means you have a good bond rating. It means that this person will probably pay their debt. Here's the trick. The higher you go into risk, so these are people who are likely to pay the money back. These are people and companies who are less likely. Where do you pay a higher rate of interest if you are borrowing money? Is it at the top or the bottom? You got it. So if you guys are investors, if you're saying, hey, we want something that's sort of a sure thing, you're going to go up to the top. You're going to go for AAA, you're going to go for AA, you're going to go for A. If you are somebody who wants to make money and you have a tolerance for risk, you're going closer to the bottom because you've got a better chance at a higher interest rate. If you are getting down to BA/BB here and down, from the here down, this is what we refer to as a junk bond. It is what it says it is, meaning you might lose your butt in the markets. It's a risk. So remember that, a junk bond. So in terms of other kinds of bonds, we have two main kinds of secured or unsecured. Who here's ever heard the term collateral? What's collateral? Jackson, what's collateral?
Something you hold, make sure a person does something, I guess, like, if I left this class, can I give you my phone, because if I didn't, so I make sure I come back.
That's exactly right. It's something that we do to make sure that somebody's in good for it. Common sources of collateral. Guys, if you're borrowing money, what is a common source of collateral for Americans?
Their house.
You got it. We borrow against our home. We borrow against our equity. But there's other things we borrow against too. We borrow against cars. We borrow against property. So if you have a secured collateral, if you're a company, it could mean, for example, if your company goes broke, somebody's coming after your assets. Or shorten the word if you would like to shorten the word. Guys, unsecured bonds means your credit is so good you don't need collateral to borrow the money. Generally, if you're borrowing less money or you got a stellar reputation, you don't need secured bonds. Here are other things you need to think about, guys. When you borrow money, by show of hands here, how many of you, when you graduate, plan on buying a brand new car? Anybody plan on buying a brand new car? We have a smart group here. By the way, it's the dumbest thing you can do if you can avoid it, is buy a brand new car. Why is that such a dumb move, guys? To buy a brand new car? Yes. You got it. Say goodbye to 15% of the worth of that car from the moment you drive it off the lot. Now that new car smells intoxicating. It's wonderful. There's nothing in the world like it. But it's a bad move. Guys, a sinking fund means that you are setting a budget that says we know that we will always have money to pay our monthly obligation on this debt. That means you have set aside part of your budget just to pay back your loan. That's a smart thing to do if you're borrowing money, whether you're a corporation or an individual. If you have a callable bond, again, I'm referring to callable bonds, we've mentioned them a couple of times. That means I can pay it off early and save some money off interest. It's great if you have one of those. Convertible bonds mean, let's say, for example, I get to the end of my life cycle on this bond. Let's say I owe Jackson 6 months worth of payments yet. And I say, Jackson, I want to make a deal with you. In exchange for you forgiving 6 months that I owe on this loan, I'm going to give you equal amounts in shares of stock from my company. You going to take it? you're going to look at my company first, though, aren't you? Absolutely right. That's what we refer to as a convertible bond. So if we can convert it, it's a great thing. Guys, we're going to cover this very quickly. I would like to hear in your own words, what are the differences between stocks and bonds? Yes? That is one of the best analyses I've ever heard of this, guys. Let's talk about a couple key differences. Am I legally required to pay interest on a bond? Yes, I am. Am I legally, as the shareholders, am I legally required to pay you guys dividends of a stock? No, I am not. Guys, does a stock put any debt onto a balance sheet? It does not. It gives you cash. Does a bond put debt on a balance sheet? It does indeed. In which case, issuing a stock, a publicly traded stock, or issuing a bond, in which scenario does the company maintain more control? Bond. You guys got this. Well done, guys. Because you answered those questions so well, what we're going to do now is to break into our stock groups. And if you're not currently a member of a group, you will be by the end of the day. So guys, if you would, if you've already formed a group, gather into your group of 4 to 5 people. If you have not, it's time to form a group. So we are forming stock groups. It is up to your choice who you are going to be in a group with. Yes, sir?
That was 2 to 3 people.
We're actually going to make it up to 4 to 5 because of the size of the class. I'm making an executive decision. If you've already formed a group with 2 or 3, that's fine too. Will you gather into your groups, guys?